It's Lisa Ross, though you may know me better as Paper Daisy Creations, and today I'm going to be showing you how to knit this cross stitch pattern. Now, I'm using a worsted weight yarn to demonstrate this for the purpose of the video, but when I knit with a fingering weight yarn, this cross stitch pattern is actually much more open. So don't be alarmed if you get a much more lacy look if you are using fingering weight yarn. What we're going to be doing is creating elongated stitches. We'll create 6 elongated stitches, and then we're going to cross 3 of the strands over the other 3 strands when we get to the wrong side row, and we're going to knit those stitches. It's actually not a very complicated pattern to work, but it can be a little bit fiddly. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to be working the next row of cross stitch patterns, and for this particular patterning, I'm going to have it lined up directly above this first set of cross stitch patterns. Now you need to work according to whatever pattern you are using, but for this design, that's how I'm going to do it, and I'm going to check it as I get there. Okay. Right here, I'm ready to work my very first KW3 stitch, in which I'm going to create a much longer stitch. And I can check to be sure that I'm at the correct spot by following these purl bumps down and looking to see that right there was where I had my first cross stitch pattern. It's directly below this purl stitch right here. So to work a KW3 stitch, you go into the stitch, and instead of just wrapping the yarn once, you're actually going to wrap it around 3 times, like this, before you pull it through the stitch. So let me show you that again. When you go into the knit stitch, you're going to wrap the yarn 1, 2, 3 times before pulling it through. And you can see I use this extra finger to just kind of hold that yarn in place and help it through the hole. And I'm working these KW3 stitches 6 times in a row. So go into the next stitch, wrap the yarn 1, 2, 3 times around and pull it through. And now I've got 1, 2, 3 wrapped stitches. I go into the next yarn, 1, 2, 3. Oops. If they fall off, no worries, just do it again. Pull it through. I now have 4 KW3 stitches. I go in 1, 2, 3, that's 5. And the last one, 1, 2, 3, that's 6. And I always like to just double check the count. I do have 6. And then I also like to, if it's not my very first row of patterning, I like to line it up with the row that was my first row of patterning and just double check to be sure I've got it in the right spot. And I do. Going to knit 6 because that's what my pattern calls for, but of course, do whatever your pattern calls for, depending on which pattern you're using. And I'm ready to work the next one. I'm going to double check. Here's that first purl stitch, and it goes all the way up to here. And I'm ready to work. 1, 2, 3. Go in, wrap 1, 2, 3. There's 2. Go in and wrap 1, 2, 3, that's 3. Go in and wrap 1, 2, 3, that's 4. 1, 2, 3 is 5. And 1, 2, 3 is 6. All right, I'm at the end of my 6 wrapped stitches. I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm going to end my row. I've turned my work to the wrong side of the swatch. So I'm going to begin with my edge stitches. Follow your pattern with however your edges begin. And then I'm going to come up to my KW3 stitches. And here's what I'm going to do. I need to elongate those stitches. Each one of these 6 is going to be a nice long stitch. So the way I do that is I take the tip of my right needle and I just pull on that first leg of the stitch. I tug it off and you can see I've got a nice long stitch here. When I pull it like that, so go into the stitch purlwise, just tug and it pulls off those 2 extra loops. So I'm only going into the first leg. Don't go into any others, just the first leg. Pull it off. There's 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then I need to put all 6 stitches back onto my left needle. So I take my left needle and I just go into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stitches. You can do that one at a time, or you can do them all at once and you pull it off. Okay, so what I need to do now is take these, I have my first set of 3 stitches and my second set of 3 stitches. We're going to keep them all in this order, except we're going to lift the second 3 stitches over the first 3 stitches. So they're still going to stay in this order relative to one another, these first 3 and these second 3, but this second set will go at the beginning. And let me show you how I do that. So what I like to do is I go into stitches 4, 5, and 6, like this, and I need to pull them over, keeping them in that order, over those first 3 stitches. And these first 3 stitches are going to want to come off of the needle. So what I usually do is I sort of push them through and hold on to them with a thumb or a finger so that I can pull the other stitches to the front. So let me show you that one more time. I'm taking 4, 5, and 6 and I'm lifting them over stitches 1, 2, and 3. So go into stitches 4, 5, and 6. And again, I'm putting this finger through so that I can grab onto stitches 1, 2, and 3 and hold on to them. And I'm going to actually just kind of keep holding on to them as I knit these next 3 stitches. I can remove my needle. I need to be sure these are all in these nice straight diagonal lines. And you can see I'm keeping that finger here. I'm going to keep those stitches held in that order as I'm knitting the next 3 stitches. So I'm going to use this finger. Of course, it depends on your knitting style, how you're going to hold them. But just make sure that you're going to knit them in that order where we're doing 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3. So this is stitches 4, 5, 6, and all we're doing is knitting them. And then comes stitches 1, 2, 3. And those are inside, they've gone in between this set of 4, 5, and 6. And now I'm ready to work those 3 stitches. And that is all you need to do for the cross stitch. Now it is fiddly and it is finicky and you might need to try it a couple of times before you get the hang of it, but don't worry, this pattern has quite a few reps of it. I'm going to work over to my next one and then I'm going to show you another method. Okay, so once again, I need to elongate those stitches. So I take my next 6 stitches and I just tug on that first loop, pull it off. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And place them all purlwise back onto your needle, back onto the left needle. Okay, now, it is very tricky to work these, to get these to cross over and stay in line. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to use this cable needle. I'm going to hook on to stitches 4, 5, and 6, and I'm going to use that to pull them over. And I'm also going to pull them off completely so that stitches 1, 2, and 3 don't get mixed up. So let me show you that one more time. Let me get everything back in order. So what I did, I've got stitches 1, 2, 3, they're staying on the needle, and I'm going to take 4, 5, and 6, loop them with a cable needle, and pull them over stitches 1, 2, and 3. I'm still going to reach through and hold on to 1, 2, and 3 so that they don't come off. All right, and now I am going to work the first 3 that are on the cable needle. Be sure you don't twist it around, but you can see I've got my diagonal lines right here. And I'm going to work them off the cable needle. So these are stitches 4, 5, and 6 that we've moved to the front. Oops, I split the yarn a little bit. Okay, I'm all done with that cable needle. I can set it to the side. And now I'm going to finish knitting stitches 1, 2, and 3. All right, and there I have my cross stitch knitting worked. I'm just going to knit this to the end. Now you can see that this is definitely a pattern that requires blocking. It needs to soak in that water and relax the stitches. They'll get nice and even, they'll cross over neatly, and it's actually a really lovely reversible pattern. It works great in garter stitch, and it's a really fun addition to your knitting that's not a lot of work with great visual impact. Keep in mind, if you're using fingering weight yarn, your stitches will be looser. You'll actually see the cross stitch much better, but I wanted to use worsted weight for the tutorial so that you could see it a little bit better. You can find this pattern and all of my patterns on Ravelry.com and on paperdaisycreations.com. And as always, I wish you very happy knitting.